Thank you so much for joining me today in this presentation. We are all here to talk about self-abandonment and how to overcome it. Self-abandonment, you're here because you either know something about that or you want to know something about that. Self-abandonment is a learned behavior. That means that it can be unlearned. So you're here today to learn a lot about this topic and then also see how can you unlearn some unhealthy patterns. In childhood, when caregivers struggle to meet our emotional needs, we can end up feeling emotionally abandoned. This is also true if our caregivers physically abandon us. We grow up internalizing the feeling that we are unworthy and unlovable, which evolves into a lack of self-trust. The real life consequence of this is that we often fail to honor our needs, wants, and boundaries. So this is what is going to be our common definition of self-abandonment, right? And so failure to recognize and honor our needs, wants, and boundaries. We're going to talk about why this happens and some solutions for fixing this, solving this. Everybody has some level of self-abandonment, by the way. And self-abandonment, I want us to use a shared language that it is self-harm, okay? Chime in if you have questions or comments. If you relate to that at all, you can sit with yourself. You can share in the chat and just be present here. So here are 12 signs that you're abandoning yourself. I want you to read these with kind of clear eyes, non-judgmental eyes, and just see where you see yourself, your partner, people that you work with, anything like that. So the first one is you suppress your feelings. You hide parts of yourself. You struggle with perfectionism. Is this ringing a bell for anyone? You don't allow yourself to rest. You struggle to trust yourself. You need external validation. You ignore your own needs to please others. You don't set or you struggle to set boundaries. You don't communicate your needs. You stay in relationships when you are not valued. You find it hard to celebrate yourself. Your self-talk is unkind, critical, or judgmental. We're going to break down these 12 signs today. So if you're reading this right now, you're like, dang it, I do all of those things. It's okay. You're fine. You're here. And I can guarantee you that you're going to leave with some concrete solutions to be a better you. And that's what we're here to do. A little bit about why we abandon ourselves. Now that we went through those top 10 ways of how self-abandonment shows up in our lives, I wanted to give you concrete evidence. I wanted you to find yourself in those things. I want to talk a little bit deeper about why we actually abandon ourselves. So let's talk about the reason why this happened. We talked a little bit about childhood. As we get into this section too, please add questions or share your experiences. We're going to go through a few of these. Self-abandonment begins in childhood. I can't stress this enough because a lot of things that we experience happen in childhood. It's likely that your parents or other influential adults didn't meet your emotional or physical needs in childhood. They abandoned you emotionally or physically, causing you to feel unworthy and unlovable. See if you see yourself in that. As adults, we tend to repeat these types of patterns from your childhood because they're familiar. We repeatedly choose partners and friends who mistreat, take advantage of, or don't support us. And we do the same to ourselves. We don't know how to be there for ourselves because no one was there for us as children. I want you to really settle that into your body for a moment. Think about the caregivers in your life and how they showed up for you or lack of showing up for you. Didn't that set the example and the tone for how you show up for yourself? It's kind of an ugly truth. Yeah, someone said this hits home for themselves. Exactly. And that's awesome that you recognize that and can share that with us. This is so, most of us can look back and say, I think my parents kind of neglected me in this way. Or I think my aunt or grandma or whoever the caregiver was in this position didn't show up for me. And that's big that we can first recognize this. I always say in my practice, you got to feel it to heal it. So if you're a few minutes into this presentation with me and you're feeling stuff, that's great. You're on your way to healing it. So most important things, it begins in childhood, okay?